I was thinking about when I sent you that message today, I started thinking more about it. So I think Mahjong is just I guess the point I wanted to make is that like I don't know. I get the impression that sometimes people think of like the outcome in Mahjong is like -1, 0, or 1, and then you like multiply your -1, 0, or 1 by whatever the points are that affect that.
Wait, what?
So like all right. So like expected value, right? I think like I don't know how to explain this. I get this impression like when like Daniel talks about it, in not quite as much when you talk about it, but like that like the distribution is about winning or losing, or not either. Like you either lose points, you win points, or it's like flat 0, right?
Are you saying that's what most people think?
I don't know, but
Okay.
so
Or some people do.
so it's not that it's wrong. It's that like I feel like it's like one step away from what's like all right. So I'll give you
Okay, so if there's no UMA and you have an infinite amount of games, then it is just plus minus 1.
yes.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking.
So the reason that it's essentially you have like a goal and a limited amount of rounds to achieve that goal.
So I guess like when I mean plus or minus points, I guess like the way people think about what plus or minus points mean.
Oh, okay.
Like they're like
because those points they're like it's like money, right? Money is valuable because it has utility. So those points are like bounded by a utility function to achieve your goal, right?
yes.
Okay. So you think most people don't take that into consideration?
No. What I mean is like that like
I don't know what's happening.
What was your name again?
when
Victor.
you see this is I don't remember all the terminology now.
So terminology.
So all right. So it's
Semantics.
like okay. So take the example of like you are rolling 2 dice and you want the probability of the sum of the 2 dice, right? And so we've talked about this. So it was like for a long time it took people like a long time to figure out why, for example, sevens were more common than 2s.
Yeah.
Because they thought, well, there's one
2 dice of 1 to 6. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the idea that certain outcomes lead to more 7s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that distribution, the outcome is the total 7. And so I think like the way that Mahjong functions is that it's plus or minus or no or nothing points. Like there's like a ton of states that lead to the same plus or minus points, right?
Yeah.
And so, well, it's important to summarize all this. I think maybe
That's why I have the definition of hand result. I was like,
yeah. So I think that article I think I think what you're I need to look at this.
no, you don't.
Oh, you're right. I'm not. I'll talk in
Wait, I care more about this conversation than playing.
Yeah, but I want to not.
Too bad you need to multitask.
I'm not good at.
Damn it.
Let's see. Okay. So Yeah, so in your like what you call your like fundamental theorem of mahjong, there's basically a name for what you're summing up over.
Yeah, you're rolling up into hand results. Like all those states that converge into that hand result is summed up into a probability.
Yes,
Right.
so that is those states are called the sigma algebra.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've actually thought about this before, like, because when you're tempai, I can calculate your sima rate, assuming I know like the number of tiles in the wall. But when you're Ishantan, it's like it's a tree of outcomes, right? There's like probability you draw the first one and you hit tempai, probability you draw the second one, you hit tempai on that one, and like the probability that you agari changes depending on when you like hit tempai. So there's like all those states, and then if you roll up those probabilities, then you converge to your hand result, right? Yeah. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. So like the way you're thinking about it, I guess, is like it's like the dice, where right you have all the ways that
The first one.
The first one can end. The second one, you have all the ways that the tiles could happen. You assume that the probability on each of those cases is uniform.
Right.
So like the probability measure is the I guess is that the cardinality of the set, or something like that.
Okay.
How often do you guys have these long-winded discussions?
Only
concerning
with Nels.
But only these two, and Daniel, but he's not here.
Yeah. Well, Daniel's not really that much of a stats guy, I think.
He still talks about it.
He is. He runs simulations of things.
He's a simulator. I'm definitely more of like a theory. I want to like get I want to get the like close form.
No, Daniel's a practical.
Yeah, and he doesn't care about.
So I think you're not going to get close form. I was thinking about this today. I think you're going to have to do some kind of approximation.
I've tried to get like close form before, and I think it's intractable.
But it's not that it's intractable, it's just like really large.
No, yeah, like intractable as in
Effectively.
because it's really large. Yeah. If you go from like the beginning run, it's 1,000. If you go from like beginning game state to, it's intractable. If you start from like East 1 and try to work your way all the way to South 4, even just like in Rohan,
Wait, isn't each hand independent? Why do you have to like?
because the
Start from
score
East 1.
changes.
Oh,
If your goal is to get first place, right?
Yeah.
Right? Really, you could write down all the games of Mahjong and like all possible game states.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, it's the
That's
same
how-
for chess, right?
That is almost practical. It's pretty darn close.
I don't know. People have been saying that for years, and they are getting better. So.
Yes, but in, third years, you should be able to computers that actually can just do all this. Or effectively do. Effectively.
All the states that
Not
matter.
all, yeah, all the states that matter.
Yeah, they can print. I don't know if I've had that, but.
Not really intensive. Also, we've kind of gone away from that approach.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're doing things to play more intuitively, which is like the opposite.
I thought.
So playing intuitively is what's it called? Short-term optimization. You're like optimizing a future in like a short time span.
Sure, but the short time span for computers is like 14 moves.
I went to high school. I talk about him a lot because he's the only guy I really know that played chess that well.
Yeah.
He could tell you when he was 14 moves away, and he would probably be right. Because we were that bad at chess compared to him.
14 moves sounds a little too much.
For a human, 7 is pretty hard.
Yeah. I mean,
But
unless
some moves are logical. Like you can.
Are we talking about seeing moves into the future?
yeah, so unless it's like it was a force checkmate in 14, then yeah.
Also, force checkmate in 14 is pretty hard for a human.
If it's like some end game, right?
That's true.
then-
Yeah, maybe 14 was too long in the future.
If it's like a
But
forced
he, like,
end game.
It was long.
Also, openings are pretty standard for humans.
What do you mean?
There's only a few hundred.
Ichi, Pause. Good enough for me.
Oh, 1,100 back.
You just did something?
Hmm?
Did you just?
Yeah. But yeah, I understand that like points are essentially just a means to an end. They're not like an end in and of themselves. Right.
Right, but
So what's the misconception here?
so points are actually what the distribution is defined on.
Yeah.
So like all the
You want to like calculate your probability that you can achieve your goal based on the point distribution, right?
Based on the point
no,
distribution.
we're talking about different points right now.
Oh, I guess like okay.
Are we?
So I mean, like, when you look at the points chart at the end of the game,
Mhm.
how many, like, there are, there are, okay, like, there are different combinations give like different numbers of points, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a boatload of states that end in that number of points.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I think the outcome that's important is the points and not and so it would be good to figure out a way to truncate we need to look at all the states. Or like if there's a way to collapse things so that you didn't have to worry about all the states. You could just worry about the points at the end. Since it seems like it might not be possible. But anyway, think about that.
Why would you do that?
Because the reason you would want to do that is because the unique outcomes are the point exchanges, not the game states.
Yeah.
So when you have a bunch of game states that lead to the same point outcome,
Mhm.
then like ideally you would want Michi, Dora, ideally you would want, if you could find a solution that could ignore the rest of that information, you would want to do that.
What information?
The game state. Because the game, so you have like
You're talking about the game state as in like the micro game.
right, yes. So, did I get the right points?
Yeah,
Okay,
once
you
you're
finish
ready.
it.
Well, I mean, that kind of exists, right? You have like probabilities that, oh, you get a non-bound kind of blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't understand why solving the macro game would be that important. If you can't like actualize that,
Well, that's no. So that's what you just said because you can't. Like that's what I'm positive. That if you can, then you would want to. And so
right?
I'm not. So I would basically I'd want to feel convinced that what you just said is true.
That you cannot solve.
If you could somehow ignore. If you could somehow figure out a way to play mahjong that mostly ignored
the macro.
Yeah.
Well, tennis players do that all the time. But you can basically turn on. You can basically turn like micro situations into like macro calculations. That's kind of what like figuring out your EV is, right? Because you've basically translated that game state into a series of like hand results or conclusions that have probabilities. Which is like kind of what my project is. It's really easy if, like, for example, two people declare Ricci, right, and the other two people are clearly folding, then you have like a really good picture of what exactly the macro EV is. Because the game basically plays itself at that point, like, there's no human tendency variables or anything at play.
If you set up the
Of like the other two players? Yeah, but I like the high levels, like, usually that doesn't happen.
you set up your west to north way, someone's gonna do it.
No, usually that doesn't happen, especially not into a two-man reach. Cause like, you know, like how a lot of the top players, you see them kind of like fold early or like hold a bunch of safe dials when their hand is bad. It's so that when the people with the door and stuff are fighting, like they can just bail 100%.
But is it 100%?
It's usually.
That's why you get a random like north and west. Those are like such good leads.
I don't disagree, but it's not like that easy.
Oh yeah, and you lowest value hand like that. People can sniff out damage.
And people can sniff out like,
Anything.
yeah, people can sniff out your weights, like your random west weight.
You can sniff out your randomness.
Yeah, because it looks weird.
I mean, it looks weird.
Like,
Yeah, that's the thing I don't get. When you say it looks weird, I have no sense of that. I'm just like,
it looks weird on the board. It's like, why is this west hanging? Like, you have those feelings, right?
You'll spend like one west early and you don't see any other west.
Yeah, stuff like that. And okay, usually they have like Gambitsu. It's very rare that like they put themselves in a situation where their best help is there is that west. Yeah. It's kind of complicated, but
That's interesting. If you're aiming for not last, I know what you're forced to do.
especially when you have the lead.
That's an interesting situation.
No, I don't.
It's pretty scary.
It's pretty possible.
I wouldn't say it's possible, but it's just scary. Let's try to get rid of this first.
That's really weird.
Tiles are most interesting numbers.
Mm. I mean, you started this, so it has to be safe.
Yeah.
You're correct. You got him.
God.
Got him. Whoa, lots of damage.
Oh.
Ichipatsumo, Ipik, Tanya Ipiko. Yeah, okay. I was like, what is my weight here? It's 4778, right? And then like a fake 6.
Okay. You're technically
The
way down.
fifth 6.
Why did you wait like that?
Wait, no, because.
6, 9.
Oh, yeah, so I'm also waiting on 9 pin. Okay.
Oh, like 6 is fake, but
Right,
9.
right, yeah. So
How are
9
you
pin,
waiting
9 pin
on
is real.
7?
Hmm?
How are you waiting on 7? Wait.
Oh, right, no, right. Okay, so it's this.
6, 9 was
6,
6,
9.
6,
6,
9,
9, 4, 7. Okay. Yeah. A really hard time. Yeah.
Out of the 7.
That would be bad.
Always some type of combo.
That's true. So yeah, essentially what I'm saying is you can kind of like simplify game states into their macro EV point swings. That's kind of like what fundamental theorem is trying to do, right?
No, you talk about this fundamental theorem. Is this something you're making, or is that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Self-important.
just, it's literally like, what?
I'm just like, is this a working group of fundamental theorists?
No, it's just me. But I mean, like anyone who knows enough about probability would figure out.
Alright. Still wouldn't necessarily call it fundamental. That's pretty.
How is it not fundamental? So, for example, like the fundamental theorem of number theory or whatever is like prime numbers, right?
I don't know number theory.
Oh, okay.
I watch a lot of
Or
YouTube videos
arithmetic,
on number
whatever.
theory, but I don't know what the theorems are in it.
Fundamental theorem of
I know the fundamental theorem.
Yeah.
I know the first. Is there 2 or 3 fundamental theorems of calculus?
There's like
What?
2, right?
Wait,
no, there's only one.
There's only.
No.
there's only one.
Oh, okay. Is it what I'm thinking? Mean value?
Well, that's the theorem of one.
Anyway,
Alright, see.
I don't see why my thing wouldn't be a fundamental.
It's really complicated.
No, it's not. It's just.
It's just complicated.
I'm just bad at explaining things.
Okay.
It's not that complicated.
Well, you're trying to explain a very hard thing, which is how to always win Mahjong, which is what it sounds
No,
like.
it's not. It's
Wait, what is it then? To maximize your
because
expected value?
because it's like intractable to calculate
Yes.
practically, which is why you can't use it like always win. And even then, it's not an always win button because
Yeah.
it's subject to the rules of probability, right?
So what is the fundamental theory?
It's a way to calculate like a heuristic that determines whether or not you should like.
Push.
It's like your heuristic EV value for a given game state.
Oh, there's 2 fundamental.
That's what I
I
said.
didn't know there were two. That's my one.
There's at
There's
least
mean value theorem and there's central limit theorem or something.
no
right?
central limit
No, wait,
theorem
no,
does
no.
not.
That's the.
You're wrong. Excuse me.
So the first, I know one of the fundamental theorems of calculus is that the integral, a finite integral from like a to b of a function f of. Wait, I'm gonna deal in if I.
That's fine, it's pretty clear.
That's true. You were. So the first is that one of them is that if you have like a finite integral from a to b of the function little f of x dx, then that is f capital B minus f capital A, where
I was surprised you didn't know that.
Huh.
why I majored in that.
I forgot about
But
calculus
like,
long.
the fundamental theorem is not useful for anything.
It was on the final exam.
You
that
better
was like how many years ago?
For me, all right, I'm gonna deal it right now. There you go.
Do you still get those dreams where you wake up and like do you still get those dreams where you wake up and you like forgot to get the midterm, whatever?
No, I never had that problem.
You forgot to put in your homework or something?
No, never had that
Never?
problem.
Oh. You never had those dreams before?
That actually did happen to me. It was not fun.
You forgot to put in your homework? Or you had
No. The final exam, I showed up 2 hours late. Well, I passed it with 50 right on. I'm surprised they even let me in, because we weren't supposed to let me in. But I was like, alright, I passed it. I'll have to deal with this again.
The guy I went to college with, we had the same teacher for a particular calculus class, and she asks for all of our phone numbers at the start. Of course, you don't have to give it to her, but she asks anyway. And so, well, he mixed up the day of the class, but he was a good student, so she actually called him and said, so-and-so,
Wow.
why are you not at the final exam? He said, oh, I didn't know it was today. And so she let him, come late and do the exam late.
The best students are the scatterbrains. They're too busy thinking about solving the mysteries of the universe or something.
Or just video games.
Yeah, actually though.
I mean, solving the mysteries of some universe.
StarCraft.
One of those universes.
Hey, they made an AI to play StarCraft.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's
Like, is it APM capped?
I read that the APM cap it at certain points.
What's
During
it?
the non-fights or whatever. I don't know anything about StarCraft.
It has you can see every vision, it has not map hack, but it can see everything that's in vision at once. Whereas if you
Right.
can only fit so much on the screen, it's you have your mini map, but still.
It sounds like a problem that needs to be solved. The problem of that you can only see what's on your screen, and you need to figure out how to, because otherwise it's like a big cheat. I remember one of the early Dota AI matches, it just it destroyed the team it was playing against. People oh, it's so good, but one of the
The devs.
one of the things they had to do that was slightly different from normal Dota was basically everyone got their own courier
Yeah.
because they couldn't figure out how to get the AI to cooperate.
Which is actually hilarious.
And so
I can't figure out how to get 4 humans to cooperate on parties. Jeez.
yeah, so anyway, so naturally the computers were way better at utilizing their own personal courier than the players were because they were not used to having it, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't.
But supports have their own personal courier. It's crazy. don't know, is theorem the wrong word? Maybe it's like a model
What?
for the equation of like conditional probabilities. Because it's just like conditional probability.
You're not.
right?
That's not a theorem.
No, what is a model?
It's just,
It's a heuristic, right?
hold on.
So what does it need to be a theorem?
My brain.
Wait, what are we talking about now? What does what need to be a theorem? Just a
Like
statement?
anything in general, yeah.
What does it take to become a theorem?
Well, all right. So what have you proved? Like, how have you? Like, a theorem is something that has to be proven.
Okay.
So, like,
I don't think that makes it a theorem, though.
yes, theorems are things that must be derived from first principles. So, like, so if you have like axioms, those are you assume axioms are true, and then you derive things from axioms. So theorems are things you derive from axioms, and lemmas are things you derive from axioms. Lemmas are things like you derive from axioms that are less important than
Okay.
theorems.
So it's just importance. It's just
Well,
is all it is.
Well, it
importance
has
and the
to
fact
be-
that it has to be.
It has to be derived,
Yeah.
and so I don't like, and then prove that one second.
I think it's just importance. That's all it is to call it a theorem.
It's you still have to prove that it's true. Like you can't.
Right, no, yeah.
So I'm not. I guess what I recall of what Austin wrote about it is that, well, there's no proof. It's just like this is a statement about the way things work, and so.
I mean, I could probably figure out a proof if I was given first principles.
So I watched an interesting math video last night that you might like about this topic. Who reached it? You reached it.
I reach it.
Feel dangerous.
Do it.
Well, this is probably good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew it was definitely good because I forgot to call it earlier. Forgot to call the last one.
Probably talking about theorems.
Whoops.
I saw you discard it, and then I picked up my tile. And then as soon as my tile was in my hand, I hadn't even looked at it yet. I thought, I needed to not do that.
Whoops.
You reach.
Mhm. What would be the first principles that I'm using to prove my theorem then?
Something statistics.
So, all right. So,
Like, isn't it just conditional probability?
so this is what question are you trying to answer with this? Like, all right. So theorems, lemmas, they all started like propositions.
Uh-huh.
So, like you say, I believe this statement is true.
Oh,
So, what statement do you think is true that involves this equation?
I believe that at any given game state there is a there is a way to calculate your probability of like I guess it's not particularly true because it's weird because like tournaments and like leagues and whatnot all have goals that are kind of separated from the game itself.
Well, then restrict. All right. So if the problem's too general, restrict the problem. So, what 2000?
2300.
23.
I would say
That's it.
no. I'm in for this.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay, so I'll restrict the problem to if we restrict the problem to no UMA and infinite games, that's easy. Right? That's just how do I accumulate the most points. And the proposition is that there is a way to calculate how many points you're expected to gain
Alright, so what is
from a given like board state. I guess the theorem's not really provable because
yeah, that's
it uses stuff like
Why is that not just clear? Like that seems to make sense to me.
it's not clear because there's players
Like I don't know if it's provable, but it just seems right to me.
that proposition.
Yeah, that like there's say your proposition again.
That it's you can calculate like the amount of the expected value of points that you will win in a given round
oh yes,
at a given like game state.
sure.
Wait.
I don't think you can calculate it, but you can definitely estimate it. Especially like
No, I think you can do it.
no, the more information you have, the easier it is to calculate as well.
So okay, so you so what you have is you say that you think that this formula describes the expected value of winning from a particular board state.
I think the formula gives you a heuristic value that approximates the the reward of a given board state, the expected rewards of a given board state.
Any better tiles on the door as well.
Well, not like expected rewards. But
Is it? The mathematician in me doesn't like how poorly defined this problem is.
Whoops. All right, so I need more work to do.
I feel like
It's kind of intractable.
no, it is intractable because there are human players
Right.
involved.
So there's
Because like
there's human tendency variables, which makes it hard. And then also like
is your issue that like you can't it seems hard to calculate it because like you would base it off of Discord information?
you would base it off of like the remaining tiles on the wall.
Right.
Yeah, like what exists in the wall.
But like
That depends on human.
yeah, exactly. So it is intractable.
No, that just means it's
No,
Unless you can define
so
you can make a mathematical
can-
function
so you
defining human behavior.
So it's not that hold on.
Sorry, Austin, I just completely denied your theory.
Oh
No,
no,
I
you
agree.
can you can calculate. So the reason you can probably still calculate is because the population is finite, and so
Oh, okay.
so you know the tile is somewhere on the table, and so so there's
well, I'm not going to argue that because so the assumption is that like it's only calculable if you're a mind reader, but there are certain game states where it's a lot easier to figure out what human players are trying to do. For example, like when you call Ricci, you can't do anything else, right? So when you're like trying to figure out whether or not you're going to fight a Ricci, that's like one less variable you need to account for in that equation.
I guess.
Right, so I think in the general case, like at the beginning of a round, it's intractable, and even if you do have a heuristic, it doesn't do you much good. But as you get more and more information, it becomes easier to calculate. 501,000. Yeah. Beats Makiku. 700, 1300 is 900, 1500.
Like what Mel said, it's too hard in the general case, but like, do you think there's any specific situation where it's easier?
I think so, yeah.
Well, you said Ricci, I guess.
Yeah. Like Ricci, there are situations where like fourth place has to finish.
Yes. Okay.
That's when it really becomes useful.
Also,
You can use it, like a lot of trouble people have is figuring out, they don't like plan ahead, so like they declare Ricci and then someone else calls Ricci, right? And they're like, fuck. No.
Right.
What you can do is,
I'm very familiar.
you can kind of like, you can calculate the return of your hand given that you Ricci and someone else Ricci like on the same turn, and then if that's positive, then your Ricci is like even more positive than that, right? So,
that means you have to put a string on Ricci.
well, they didn't know how positive your Ricci was, right? And it might be the case where like you're both positive on that reach.
Oh.
So like fourth place and like second place.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I already have like a corollary to the theory, but I guess I should flesh it out before I.
You should get your theorem first
Yeah.
before you get the corollary.
Yeah.
I need to flesh out the theorem before. But the corollary is a lot more practical.
That's usually the case.
Is that usually the case?
Fundamental theorem of calculus is not very useful.
But the corollary is very useful.
How to take a derivative and how to do an integral, very, very important.
Fair enough.
Fundamental theorem of calculus doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
sure it does. It tells you how to find like any finite or what are they called?
Integrals exist. That's what it tells you. Doesn't tell you how to find them.
Wait, is
that's
it?
important.
Yeah, it does tell you how to find it. It tells you like if you like integrate this function and if you integrate the function and then evaluate it at the endpoints, then you get the area in that area.
Duh.
Yeah, that tells you that, but it doesn't tell you how to do that.
Alright,
It
should I
doesn't
read
tell you how to-
Wikipedia? Is this going to be helpful?
Well, like,
No,
sorry,
it doesn't tell you how to calculate the integral. So it doesn't tell you what the integral of x
Yeah, it doesn't tell you how to find the integral, but it
Yeah.
says if you need like the
If-
integral over
yeah.
a region, how do you do that? This is it.
Yeah, I guess.
Alright, I have
It is
things I like and
useful.
things I don't like.
It's like stating like all chord states can be found to have like an EV. It's like that's great, but what are those? That's the hard part.
Right.
I mean, it is one step.
I mean,
to
my
prove that it exists.
my proposition is trying to prove that it exists, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
but
And now that you know it exists for like different actions at different EVs, right? And basically the corollary is that every action you take, you want it to necessarily be bigger than the EV if you folded. So every action you take should be based on, am I doing better than if I folded? Because folding is like super easy.
So
Yeah.
that's an interesting.
I don't know if folding is
It's super easy, or you can make it super easy, and well, it's easier than like sniffing out someone's weight, right? You can just bet already. And there's zero variance if you fold correctly. So the variance is a lot
But
lower.
if you fold correctly, it's a pretty big statement.
Yeah.
in human play,
I don't know, maybe it's different for people who don't play for a long time.
like if you knew the perfect strategy for folding, then you can target those people
Oh.
and go specific. And
Yeah, you can.
Wrong ball.
Well, but you can never like break Gambitsu, for instance.
Sure.
So like that takes into account like what's the risk that you draw a tile that's not Gambitsu. My perfect fold is like if you're just throwing Gambitsus.
But also, like, at some point, you are, I guess, pushing and
Calm.
bailing at the what? Okay. Pushing and bailing at the same time, right?
Those are, I mean, right, so, okay, you can beta ori, which is you just
No,
play
that's
Gambitsu.
not very interesting to, like, consider as an option.
Exactly, but I'm saying if you can do better than that, like, is
Yeah.
Mawashi better than beta ori? Because you need to calculate those EVs ahead of time. Like, is it worth pushing this tile if there's like a 20% chance they'll deal in? Versus I can just not do anything. I can just like play all the safe tiles, right?
Wait, this supposed to be another door.
Did you discard?
No,
I did.
Yeah. It's,
Oh yeah, there is supposed to be another door.
oh, whoops.
You did discard the 9.
Yes, I did.
No, it looks like not.
Yeah, I like that door.
I don't like it so much. That.
Well, you just said you like it.
I mean, I like it doesn't mean I can use it.
That's spicy. Oh. I'm gonna die.
Go on.
Oh, jeez.
no.
Doorbomb.
Dora.
No.
Alright, well, screwed up. Time to fail.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kind
you see what you said that. Or we were talking about knowing when to bail
full EV.
or fold. Probably should fold.
What? No.
No,
that-
you
no,
should not fold. You're
well,
plus.
Well, you don't see my hand right now.
Oh, really? Are you
Oh.
like two shots?
No comment. Fuck.
So, like, okay, I wouldn't say folding is easy, but it is probably like the lowest variance strategy.
Most variants, okay.
Lowest variance. Right, like fighting a Ricci, you might have the same EV as your fold, but your variance is way higher. And I mean, depending on
I don't know, man.
depending on like what rule set it is or whatever, maybe you want more variance, but yeah.
Well, wow. Such fast.
Such 5-6. Oh wow.
Literally all
It's
four of
literally
those
the-
are on you. Yes.
But yeah, what do you think about the corollary? Even though the theorem isn't done.
Wait,
What's the
what was corollary? You know, I don't think you said it.
No, the corollary is just the corollary is once you can figure out your EVs, you should choose the action that gives you an EV better than your fold EV.
Why can't you just pick the best EV?
Oh, so I think
Because like calculating EVs for all your options is hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying any option
No,
that would
so
give
I'm
you...
saying like in practical terms, right? If you're deciding what should I fight this Ricci or not,
Okay.
if you can calculate the EV that of you fighting the Ricci versus the EV of you folding, you should choose. Or the EV of you fighting the Ricci has to be better than the EV of you folding in order to fight.
Okay. Hold on. I don't know
So
if
like
you-
folding takes priority, even if they're the same EV. If
I don't think so. I mean, that sounds intuitive.
yeah,
I watched a math video last night on dynamic, basically like probabilistic games, and arbitrary with a few specific assumptions. And the end result was that it's basically that they derived a new way to look at theory from evolution called Fisher's fundamental theorem of something. Anyway, and the end result is like that you're like you don't have to be the best to survive in that sense. You have to in whatever game they were playing, you have to be better than average. So I don't know how that compares to the game you're imagining, but yeah. Oh.
No, that's fine.
Alright.
Alright, good. Good thing I folded then.
I shouldn't have called this. I forgot. I didn't notice I was what's it called, very 10 until I called and then I noticed.
Oh, but you also you don't have Yaku.
Right. Yeah. It was stupid. So I had like yeah, but it doesn't work when you open.
Really, you take it, yeah. Close down.
So like the calling.
I mean, I guess it kind of equates to like choose your highest EV option at all times.
So I guess like if that model that they described in that video is an adequate model for Mahjong, or play in Mahjong, then like then the correct move is the one that is whose EV is above average, which in that sense means that it could be negative, just so long as it's above average.
Oh yeah, I think the average EV of a hand is like -500 or something. Just cause
Wait, that's known? Or is that...
How's that possible?
What do you mean how's that possible?
No, I believe it's possible, but who figured it out? Or how was it figured out?
Like, probably just sampling.
Oh.
Zero sum.
So
Yeah,
it's not...
it's got to be the average.
No, the average has to be
Zero.
lose.
Average has to be zero.
Well, it has to be probably slightly below zero because there can be points splitting.
The average for one person should be nice, because there's 3 other players on that table.
Why?
Alright, so like, alright, Austin, here's the example. What's the average number of points on the table right
Oh, 10,000 or 100,000, and that never changes.
now? Yeah, the average number of points on the table is 25, or 25.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it's always
divide by
that
four. Yeah.
unless like there's Ricci stick sitting on the board. At the end.
Right.
Or like, yeah, or sitting like waiting for someone to take it.
Okay.
So generally, the average amount you win versus lose across all players of games is 0. I'll explain why.
I mean, I get the intuition behind why.
So the system's closed.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, so nearly. Yeah, and I guess in some sense, like it would be slightly negative because points can only leave the table. They can't.
Ricci sticks.
Yeah, they can't be added to the table. But it's not like negative for the reason you were thinking it was.
Okay, so if you play 10,000 rounds of like East 1, and you have the same player on board, you're telling me that that would average out to 0?
Can you repeat it?
If you play 10,000 rounds and in East 1, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you gather up all the hand results, you're telling me that value would be
The average of all the hand results for all the players.
for all the players
For
overall,
all the players over all the games would be
0 for each.
0 for each player.
Assuming like we handled Ricci 6, like they just go back to the first.
Oh.
You need to do something with Ricci 6. You can't just have that level. Then it would be negative.
Yeah, I can see that actually, because
It's 0 something. Points gotta go to
yeah,
something.
that's like popular like there's surveys of like how many sexual partners have you had,
Mhm.
right? And there's this and so you see like men have many more sexual partners on average than women, and as long as it's all like partners, but as long as it's all like heterosexual, then like average is the wrong word because we know that the average of binary systems that link like that. I guess hold on. What am I doing? What am I even doing with this hand? Like I guess you can also have like group sex, which also makes it difficult. But
Wait, how do you start talking about sex?
Because the average number of partners, mathematical average,
It's greater than.
should be exactly the same, even though there are these big discrepancies. Because then you have a binary system. If you have like pairings, then just because like some individuals in the system have like many more pairings than others, like as long as the system always works that way, the average will be the same. What won't be the same is like other measures of central tendency, but the average will be equal. And so this is the same with Mahjong. The average, the median might not be.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think median is more important than mean here then. So the median is negative.
Median was probably going to be 0.
The median is also going to be 0? That I don't believe. I can believe the mean is 0. I don't believe the median. Because one, like,
Most of the time, someone will win.
will win,
I guess. Someone
yeah.
will win.
So like 3 players lose and 1 player gains.
So the difficult thing is that so the median is not really well defined because there's 4 scores in a game. So,
Well, you can restrict it to 1 player on that table.
What am I doing?
Like, I think if I were to play 10,000 hands of Mahjong, more than 50% of the time I would lose. Probably like 75% of the time, right? Because 4 people.
Yeah.
But the amounts I win are going to be more than the amounts I lose. Because like sumo payments are less than like getting hit by a Mongon sumo is less than like winning a Mongon. So the mean will even out to 0, but the median will be centered around like negative 1,000 or something.
Not how you win with Mahjong. Not how you with me.
Well,
Hey, you know the player who declares the second Ricci has a higher chance of running?
that's bullshit. Why? Wait, why though?
Because Nels draws first. So Nels has a higher chance of sumoing, but I have a higher chance of running. Which is, I
All
think,
right,
is
with that
hilarious.
information.
Oh wait, why am I? With that. It's like, oh, do I need this?
Nope, I don't need that now. Thanks.
Reach. That's why I said it's not how I win.
Nope.
Miss. 16.
Nope.
That is how you win.
That is how you win.
I mean, winning is how you win, but I thought like this is not a big enough hand to.
Yeah.
But I felt like I spent all my time talking, so I didn't move it towards a hand that was the value. I just. What?
Okay.
It was okay. I don't see what's wrong with them. I don't see what's wrong with them.
Maybe you can't see the door.
No, I'm probably sorry. Victor's is positioned well. No one else is here. So probably.
I don't know, I feel like a lot of people, when they're deciding whether or not to fight the Ricci, they only like estimate their EV for like fighting the Ricci, which may be positive, but your EV might be even higher if you consider the EV when you also fold. Which is where the corollary comes from, I guess. Yeah, like how do you make a decision on whether or not you want to chase?
If your hand is good.
Yeah,
That's all I know.
that doesn't
Not necessarily good.
Well, no, if your hand is better than what you think is,
in your opponent's hand?
then
That's a pretty good heuristic.
I mean, I have no basis for that other than just instinct.
Okay.
Well, I guess what it seems like is like when you decide to reach, the decision decision isn't just like whether or not to reach, it's whether or not to build an entirely different hand. And it just so happens the hand that you can always build, no matter who you are, is folding. Unless you're reaching.
That's not like building a hand, right? That's an action you can
Sure,
take.
it's building a hand. It's a hand that shouldn't win, but it's building a hand.
I guess you can call it hand building. I just think it's weird.
Right. But it's like that's what you're doing. You're building a hand, and the hand is like.
I mean, that means like if you just discard every tile you draw, you're building a hand.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You're.
That is.
I think when you're building a hand, there needs to be an
Well,
intent to
building a
win
hand is
around.
very English.
So if you're building a hand like you just described at random, then your hand has like zero information. So.
Your hand also has zero chance of winning unless it's
Well,
10
not necessarily.
Well, no, you draw this card.
Yeah.
Right. You can
You just Dama 10 your double reach and then you do it.
Okay, yeah. If you're not Tenpai originally, there's zero chance of winning. I'll do it. I could have done it. If I could have done it, if I drew that tile, because this is smuggy. So it's one tile too late.
Should have probably kept that.
I draw this side.
All three, maybe? Oh.
The first one was.
Oh, I didn't move my ball feel like I might have not moved my wall forward a lot.
I don't think you noticed.
The thing is, like, I now have no recollection of ever doing it except for the first hand.
Okay.
So, whether or not that means it's automatic, which it's supposed to be, or I just wasn't doing it.
But yeah, now I'm trying to figure out the heuristics I can use. So I can like calculate EVs basically. Like sumo rate's a pretty good one.
Solved?
Yeah, it's solved. But it's only solved if you know how many tiles you have in the wall, right? And if it goes through your calculator. And there's also Tsumori for like if you're fighting as well, but that one's trickier because you also have to determine how many tiles your opponent has in the wall, and you also have to determine whether or not the other people are folding. I think my favorite heuristic so far is on the 5th turn, like half the tiles in the game are in play. Because there's 34 times 4 is 136 tiles. Then everyone has 52 at the beginning. And then 4 times 4 is 16. So 52 plus 16 is 68. Which is 136 divided by 2. Which means like if you have a two-sided weight on the 4th turn, you can just assume there's 4 tiles in the wall. It's pretty accurate.
What did you say?
500.
Oh.
Big gold stick. 500.
Yes, this is it.
I like the heuristic Daniel said. If there's something like 4 tiles from the end, then 4 tiles I mean like per player, so 16 total from the end. Then the probability that the probability that somebody is temping and waiting on a tile that is whose weight has never been played is really, really, really high. So that like
Yeah, but that's harder to prove.
That can be shown
Empirically, but you can't prove it.
theoretically. Right. But it's just,
You can find stats on it.
yeah,
Disgusting. I don't trust anything that can't be derived by first principles.
but you can see it.
No, but Monte
Yeah,
Carlo.
not that I don't trust it. It's that like I have less. Because that depends on the players you're playing and whatnot, right?
This is tempo stats.
Yeah, these are all hello stats. So
Yeah.
not necessarily true for like different rule sets, different players, etc.
Yeah, but if you're trying to go for tempo,
Yeah,
pretty
for
good.
it. Go for it.
Are you not trying to go tempo?
I mean, I think I can get it without this stats.
Really?
I swear I had two of these in my hand, and so when I realized I had only one, I was.
That changed things.
Well, you probably wouldn't have that one.
That's the thing. No, like the reason I thought I had two is I saw that and I
Yeah.
thought, okay, so there's only one more left.
Oh, okay.
So I had made that calculation. I don't know how.
And then you got really confused when you saw that one?
Yeah, something like that.
Hmm.
Okay. No.
But like the fifth turn half tiles and play heuristic is like, you can apply that to any game. Or any rule set that uses 136 tiles,
Right, it's not doing
right? The statistical ones are like, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I guess because they're not generalizable and they're.
So the thing is that you don't know that it might be that there is a very good reason that
Right. So.
it has nothing to do with like strategy.
Oh, really?
It's possible. I don't know,
Okay.
but
Well-
you certainly can't say that that it for sure is that it only exists because people play a particular way.
Fair enough. I think they're only useful when, like, statistics are only useful when there's like a story around them,
Really?
describing like why is it this way.
Interesting. Because you can use correlations.
I mean, people at my work do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
they're just
okay,
like-
there's nothing wrong with using correlation, but if you see a correlation,
Right.
you can take advantage of it, whether or not you know how it works.
Yeah, you can take advantage of
Who
it.
is Chief and
Dude, she I don't want another one. You can take that back. But like, we have found that if you take aspirin after getting a headache, the headache kind of goes away.
Yeah.
We don't know how it functions.
We might know how that functions.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't think aspirin has been proved to like.
So some of those we do and some of those we don't.
Most of them we do. Almost
I
all
know
of
that
them.
like
we
everything I take, we don't know how it works.
Are you sure you should be taking it?
do. Yeah, but
Yeah,
like,
because it works.
yeah, because correlation, it works. And sometimes it's some long trial and error things, like willow bark is good for coughs. Why is it? I don't know. I mean, they finally isolated the compound like 50 years ago, but like 2,000 years ago, they had no idea what was going on. But people were still using it. It was effective. Correlation.
It is aspirin, but now it's cough syrup from willow bark.
Not sure. It's like the Chinese traditional medicine, that like the dark stuff.
Okay.
That's what's called.
I mean,
Willow bark.
they're definitely useful and they will increase your win rate. I just don't find them interesting.
You find them interesting?
Yeah.
How is it not interesting to like go through a whole bunch of data to figure out
Austin
what
doesn't.
correlation?
Austin
Yeah.
doesn't care about
I-
winning, is what he just said.
Yeah, kind of. It's
He wants to
more,
win in style.
well, no, I want to win in a way I understand. Gee. I want to like build an intuition around why I'm winning or why I'm losing, right?
So this reminds me of a discussion I saw about how AI works. And so,
Is this like some weak AI, strong AI stuff?
what, no, so like, you know, we, I guess, probably have a reasonable good sense at the moment of like how companies implement AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the way they implement it is, even if they don't say it, is effectively a statistical model. It's, yeah, so the models they use to implement AI are based on data and probability and black boxes. And so for a long time, there were people who worked on it that thought very, very, very strongly that that the AI should. That was it.
Yeah.
So thought that AI. So basically, it should be axiomatic. That you define like all the states and all the decisions based on the states mathematically. So there's no
I
and
agree.
what?
I agree.
Right, and so what they found was that, they weren't terrible. They were
Yeah.
really bad at generating AI that was effective that way. And so the question then posed, like, how do we know that our brains are not, this is mine. Yeah, these are mine. Why did I put this? So the question is like, are our brains axiomatic or are our brains statistical?
You guys swap.
What? And so, so are our brains statistical probability machines or are they axiomatic machines? There are a lot of people for a long time that thought they might be axiomatic machines. And eventually, like now, it's like, well, we decided we don't know. That the idea that decision making is axiomatic and very high dimensional is we don't we can't prove that.
Right.
So the idea that our brains aren't effectively
Probability distribution.
Statistical machines where they're not consistent. They don't always make the same outcome from the same decision from the same information. What do you mind? Well, I don't want to.
Sounds like a really philosophical argument.
Right, but that's the argument you're having.
Kind of.
Only kind of.
I mean, yeah, it is about like. Sure.
A lot of discoveries or inventions are just random stuff you can manage to find.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
You can force find some stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Daniel's method. You force find.
Brute force.
Yeah.
He's literally just like simulates a million mahjong hands and is like, oh, what's the chance of winning this?
I mean, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it works. Really does.
I think it's
okay.
working.
Yeah, it's an okay way to do it.
Yeah. But there's like a certain mathematical beauty in understanding like the underlying elements, right?
Yes, but is it practical?
Probably not.
So you can do both, but you have to think about it a different way.
What do you mean?
Okay,
I will say like most of my mahjong playing is not me like randomly calculating EVs. It's mostly field based. So.
Right. So your brain that has is making those decisions for you. It has like.
It's doing the practical stuff, right?
So your brain says like, I've seen this board state a lot of times, and this is what I've learned about these board states. And so when you have a feeling, it's because your brain is saying, I think I know something about this board state.
Right.
And I think the answer should be, I think you should do X, Y.
Yeah. Are you too old for that?
I was too old for that in college.
Wow.
How does that work?
As in like the behavior I complained about just now, I complained about I was.
But did you ever do such behavior?
No.
Because I know I did.
I
complained about it, but
yeah, I definitely did.
I know I did.
Well, not. I say partake.
That is why
probably
people-
once or twice.
But that is why people say I am like uptight. So.
If the lifestyle doesn't appeal to you, then it doesn't appeal to you.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Well, I know what it is.
Good tile.
Oh my god.
Speaking of very good tiles.
There's a reason why I did that.
Okay. John's watching.
I would like to open reach.
No insecurity. We talk about limiting risk, and that limits risk.
Brain stuff up. I'm not doing what I wanted to.
I hate when that happens.
You do your brain what to do.
It's like sometimes brain discomfort is for whatever strange reason.
Brain is not the delay is too long right now.
The delay? What delay?
We don't want to call tiles. Come on.
Nope, someone.
The other side.
Well,
See you on the other side.
Thanks, let's see. Wait, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's what I was safe.
it's true. Okay, this one? You're probably put my wrist held
Ooh. How do I feel about that? It's free play. Come on. Let's do it.
Do it.
And draw.
Oh, well, good.
Well, not two. 3 more gods. That's just
Wait,
good for me.
I had a tile.
That's what it is. I don't want to fold.
Forcing the fold.
What is going on here?
How much do I want to? Yes. Let's cause chaos.
Oh no.
Con.
Okay.
So close the con.
Well, immediately.
This one's also gone.
That was literally all gone.
Which?
This one.
Green Sean, let's do it. Green Sean.
No.
See, it was too much fun. It was the absolutely
I feel like
wrong
we're
decision. Absolutely wrong decision. But I wanted to do it.
I missed all the Eudora.
Did I call into this?
Huh?
I
Toy
had,
play? East toy play?
yeah.
Oh,
It was Sonoko Tenpai, but I had Sonoko chance. Like, here. Yeah, but I called the 7 as well.
should be 7 7, right? 6 Eudora?
What?
7 7.
Yeah.
That is actually not nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
I missed.
Especially with all the cons.
I missed all the Dora.
Well, I feel like that was a positive for me.
Was
it?
Like, my
Yeah, because you should have had these, right?
Oh, and a green stick.
oh, green. Why can't I pick up my green stick here? Alright. It would have been really fun to draw the winning tile.
That's
I
what you're
guess
saying,
you
casinos. It would have been really fun if that won.
Obviously I was waiting on my pair, and there were 3 tiles out there. I could only see one of them. So I thought, like, oh, this is gonna be fun. All right, so I need to order my.
Important part.
So what were you saying about you can do the empirical stuff, like you can also find like the intuition behind it?
Right. Well, like, yeah, it's possible that it makes loads of sense why the tile that everyone is.
I mean, it usually does, right? Like for that example, it's Champagne, so no one was able to call upon of it, and then if you're holding a lot of them, then they're either like in everyone else's hand or they're not in your opponent's hand, so they're likely to like wait on it. I guess I think like Mahjong is a simple enough problem that most of the times you should be able to suss out an intuition for things.
I feel like that just asserts that humans are easy to predict.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be right. It's probably right for me.
I don't want to be right about that one.
If you don't want to be right, well,
Yeah. I think like some games are easier to predict than others, obviously. Let's not talk about that.
well, I think I would know exactly how to do it.
So you didn't change it up.
Nope.
You're like, oh.
How do I make it even more efficient? Because I still don't make the most efficient. And also fail way too much.
You didn't call enough, you know, for
I don't call enough, I don't fail, like I don't push enough for me. It's clearly what I'm pushing.
you don't go for like Yaku hands that aren't Kung Fu, which is really weird.
That last one wasn't Kung Fu.
Yeah. But it didn't have a Yaku that wasn't Riichi. Right?
It was going, I mean, no, it wasn't even going to be Kung Fu. It was not even to.
Yeah, it was just going to be Reach. Oh, yeah. It was going to be Sanshoku.
And I drew six.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a Sanshoku chance. I failed one night, and then I don't have hand. Woo! Well, I guess I technically don't. So Reach.
Ooh,
Is this?
that's Sonic.
Okay.
Well, it's still Hanemon.
Okay.
12-3. You should have just clicked reach.
Click reach.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't reach.
You
'Cause I'm
talked about
scared.
Paimon. Well, you have Suanko. What are you scared of?
Yeah, and your
Reach
weights.
Pinfu?
Okay, there you can aim for the 1-1, I guess. Yeah, so it's Hanemon anyways. You don't need to up it to a
Reach is a
Paimon.
Paimon.
Yeah, you don't need to up it to a Paimon. And if it's sumo, it's Yakumo either way.
I know.
So, yeah, that's fine. I
Would
think.
it have been coming? Where am I?
You're here.
Yeah, okay, that's enough looking. It wouldn't have been. I'm going too lazy to do
You
all
have to
this.
spoil your. Yeah,
Um,
Okay.
I thought I expected.
Toy Toy Sanko door.
40?
Probably 50. I just do 50.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, sweet. I thought it was easy probably.
What was great?
6-9 still?
Probably.
7 of them available?
And just because you're positive doesn't mean you'll come out on top.
Yeah, like, have to be greater than your opponents.
Well, even if it's greater than your opponents, like sometimes your opponent just wins.
Well, that one, I'm definitely not going
Yeah, yeah, that one you're probably negative.
Like, sure, I would win like 35%.
No, you were screwed either way, because either you pay into Haimon or you sumo and take the dealer penalty from like the Yakumo.
16,000, I'd rather pay in. But, like,
The only way you can dodge it if it goes to Yukaku.
I have a really high
Yeah,
chance of winning.
yeah, before that.
35%.
You're probably. How big was your
7,000.
hand?
Yeah, 200.
I was tempai ever since I owned the East.
You're probably positive.
Oh, it's like 9th turn? 8th turn?
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones where
7
just like.
finals?
You can roll a 10-sided dice and lose to someone who rolls a 6-sided dice. Like,
That's true.
it's just part of probability.
Didn't expect Swan.
And like Nell said, at the end of the day, it's just a high one. Like, it's just the
True.
12,000 plays.
Yep.
Doesn't
With
matter
my
if it was
previous win.
Suanko or like Richi Patsumo or a 3.
Right. And with my previous win, I'm actually not that far.
Pawn.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
it doesn't sound good to us, I
No.
don't think.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to become a competitive player, you need to become numb to things like that. But it still hurts.
Well, good thing Sumo did not.
Cheat.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'll go for it. It's replay.
No.
Oh yeah.
First one. Why am
Why are you pushing?
I? Yeah. Why in the world am I pushing? I guess I'm not really pushing. Child.
Hmm. And if you don't think null is template, you can push, right?
Yeah, but the other thing is I can just like board
Yeah.
versus I draw something like this, and then I'm like, well, now what?
Fold. Oh, you mean hoarding like that?
Yeah, hoarding 8 so for when he's tempo versus
Yeah.
then I draw this, I'm like, well, now I can do this to either point. I'm screwed.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what you should be doing.
Or I can just pay it. It'll probably be cheap.
No.
Yeah, don't think so?
Well, probably.
Guarantee 7/7 minimum,
Yeah.
no 4 on hand. Oh no,
Mm.
don't like my prospects.
It's not the. It's not the door already.
Something.
Oh.
Nice.
Confirmed safe in. Oh, that's null as well. Confirmed safe for
Oh, yeah.
nulls.
Oh,
Got him.
time.
Oh, it is bigger.
It is big.
It is bigger.
No, it's
it's
even
a high
bigger.
line.
Oh.
Okay, hold on.
It's
I
a high
can do
one.
this.
12,000.
So Riken Tanyal is 3. The Sanshok is 2, and then Dora is 1.
Yeah.
It was bigger, holy cow. But I would have dropped the 3, not the 6.
Well, then I would have won.
I was screwed
Oh my
anyway.
god.
Oh.
We thought about that.
12,000. Yeah, you don't usually win 2 high miles in a
No,
row.
not very frequent. I mean, last round I didn't even win a single hand.
Oh yeah.
So I'm happy with this.
Slingshot
So,
theory.
question.
Yeah.
I waited, I had been tempai somewhere around here.
Yes.
So I paused when I drew the 5 because
I have no fives.
What?
Well, okay, go ahead.
Well, right. So I paused when I drew this because I
You
thought,
can break that up, yeah.
because I thought this is a terrible way, and if I, but if I keep this, I would have to kill tempai, but I might, it might more easily transition to
Better tempi.
a better tempai. So would you have done it, or would you just said, no, I'm going to stick with my tempai because it's 4?
With this?
Yeah. So would you have killed this if you had drawn that?
Oh, it's hard. You can probably, like, that answer, yeah, that Ishan sends wide enough that you can probably drop this. Really, if you draw 5 so, or you draw, and you would have drawn.
So I drew the 4 so in
4
the,
pin. Yeah.
and then that so then I'm tempai, and it's, I guess that probably wasn't better at the time because
Well, you also get 3.
also
Yeah.
3.
3, 6, 9.
Yeah. So maybe it was now.
Well, that's worse.
It's worse, yeah.
Yeah, 3, 6.
That was a hard. I was like, I'm already there. Do I want to take a step back to maybe?
Right.
Oh.
Generally, no, but because you
So
can.
not a bad way.
Yeah, 3 so is not that bad. You can always draw 5.
I was not happy when you called after, because I was already waiting on the 3 so, and as soon as you call like the bamboo, you had like honor and bamboo, and I'm like, all right, now that makes it bamboo more dangerous.
No, no. I
No,
was just trying to because I
you
threw
had
8,
the
9 so
9.
yeah early, and I also threw an honor tile early. So I was like pretty clearly not going to tell you to.
Okay.
And he discarded the 8, 9 because he had the 5, 6. The 5, 6.
Well, the 9 was Sumogiri, and the 8 was so I had 5, 6, 8, and then
5, 6, 8. 5, 6, 8 last one.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty sure he has Lolly, please.
I mean, you can try to go
Wrong.
way.
Oh, man.
I should have reached.
Yeah.
It's just home. But it's, it goes over.
100? Yeah.
Weird. The free play worked. Because I was going to fold eventually. But I was like, I'll push one tile for fun. 1600? Yeah.
So you can get it.
And also, if my weight improves, then I can reach on the 3 pin because it's safe. Yeah. But like that, I wasn't meant to win the hash.
Really?
With a fucking weight?
I mean, you wouldn't get it from us two, probably.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Nels' weight is better.
Yeah, really? So.
Yeah, 4 times. I don't know how many there are in the wall, but I'm pretty sure it was like 1v2. I'm not gonna 1v2 and I don't know.
Oh, we're in south?
Or it's-
No, oh, east. Alright, cool.
Otherwise I wouldn't have had it up.
I would have been combo.
Tactical combo to stop the reach.
Now we're gonna do it.
Might get kicked out of each chance.
So I need to ask, how did the line end up as a mode of communication?
That's a good question.
It's Japanese.
Is it actually because it's Japanese?
That was always my assumption. Like this
Weebs.
club functions as a mahjong club and a Japanophile club.
Weebs.
I mean, just look at my friggin' shirt.
Oh.
Oops.
What's on your shirt?
It's from some anime.
It's fine. my PML shirt, dude.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Right.
Acceptable. Pong.
Everyone was holding exactly one. This one's gotta be.
Nope.
And fish.
Alright.
I did the stats on that a while back. It's like at that gym it should be like 20-ish% that someone wants it. 20%? Fine.
Could be, I don't know, like 4 tries.
Yeah. But like on the first turn, it's very unlikely that someone already has it there.
I don't think it's on.
It's like 15% max. I forget what.
Sorry.
You mean the line of retreat bongos? Damn.
Super danger bongos!
Wait.
Huh.
Oh god,
So yeah,
no.
but it doesn't go over. This is 10, right? Yeah.
Oh, don't get me.
I want to pick up this stuff.
Okay. I mean, the
Right,
weights.
there's only 2,000.
I wanted this, and then that would be 39. Right? Yeah, that works too.
Only victories.
Agreed.
Unless, like, the game ends and you're in fourth place.
Well, it depends on the rule set. Maybe you want the game to end. Yeah. Because like that,
If you're
right?
gambling,
Otherwise, the dealer's gonna repeat, and you're like, man, I just have lose no points, really.
Yeah, and I'm looking at you win.
So we were dead lost anyways.
Better than just like losing the opportunity for 80 points.
Yeah. 80 points is a lot.
And going for something random.
Now, this is totally unrelated to the composition of a hand, but what is advice on, what the fuck is it called?
What is it called?
Like, not your win pairs.
Oh, Otakaze pairs. You can hold them for save tiles, you can hold them for Pinfu.
Oh yeah,
That's
okay,
the
okay.
thing, too.
I hate
Yeah.
holding them for Pinfu because they ruin other stuff usually when you do that.
Yeah, you can always also just like throw them. It really depends what the rest of your hand is. Like,
I have 3 pairs up there.
if you have 3 pairs, you're, well, if,
But if it's my only pair, I'm gonna keep it firm, because I could.
yeah.
But because if I have 2 pairs, I might do one. But it's definitely a push pick. Unless it's a 1, maybe 1 something.
I think in your high pie, if you have 3 pairs, you should like flirt with the idea of cheetah at least.
Yeah, because usually you'll be like 3 pairs and then
Yeah,
like
like random
stuff.
If it's like 3 pairs, then the pairs are actually like 2, 2, 3, like good Riemann shapes. So if that happen to have a pair in them, then you can discard. So,
I don't count 2, 2, 3 as a pair.
they're technically
They're
pairs.
technically pairs. I don't consider them as pairs.
They're not first class citizens.
They're better than first class citizens.
They're too good.
They're too good to get rid of. Those are really nice.
Okay.
10 tile.
Yeah, that's why it's like, oh, beach and reached on a 4 pins, 3 6 pins. It's like,
Oh, you. Not even that. Ugh. That all these.
like, don't do that.
Wing 0, 1, or 2 turns.
Or usually you want to confirm your strong shapes and bolster your weak shapes.
Yeah.
So usually you don't actually end up with like that shape in your hand. You want to keep like floating tiles to bolster your weak shapes. You're not getting first place if you don't push.
I'm not getting any more third at this rate, so. Not bad. 7? Not bad.
I mean, it's close to the door. If it's,
I don't care about the value, I just care about not doing it.
yeah, but like 3, 5, 6, 8, yeah, I guess it's not that likely.
You could just have a 5, 6.
9 on.
Oh, try the 7.
That one's safer, I think.
Well, now it's safer.
Yeah.
I didn't try the 7, I don't think
Okay.
they're safe at all.
We all need to defeat this Ricci. Is it 3 6 pen?
What?
Is your weight 3 6
No.
pen? Okay. That means it's free time.
You sure about that?
If you're looking at the book and not paying attention, probably free time.
No. I am paying attention.
Just trying to see how many points.
Sumo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Pinfu, not
no,
Pinfu, I'm lying.
Tanya.
Tanya.
You don't put,
Right.
yeah, it's 1,000, 2,000.
I felt like, what was that?
I don't know
What was that?
It's worth the wrench on.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Pretty dumb of it.
This
What
was
was your hand then? Why are you looking at the... Oh,
No.
shoot.
That's cool. Oh, okay, well, no, there's not.
Wait,
So do you think I should, do you think calling, I mean, assuming I want to get out of last place.
I think you should call there. Because you still have a dealership, and you don't want either of them to like. If Beacon wins, your chance of getting their place is a lot lower.
Realistically, third place equal.
So, yeah.
And second, maybe.
And now you're pretty close. You're just some more away. So, guess I'll go for first place.
All his pilots were locked in hands, so it would still be one of us.
Well, you don't know that.
You know, right? But
Yeah, this one's not likely.
I think it's worth pushing.
I think so too. Tree play is weird because like there's no real goals.
Maybe first.
Besides that one, but no, you.
I'm sad.
Yeah, you're not getting first.
I guess I'll try.
Oh, why did you durdle in the palm tournament? Why are you durdling? Weren't you like -11 or something?
I got 2/3. I got first, right? So I just needed another first. And then I played it safe.
Why?
Fun.
Oh,
Oh no!
that's how you get out of lost.
That's how you get into last.
No, that's how Nels gets out of lost.
Yeah, that's how I get into last.
Yes.
I don't like this plan anymore.
I wish I could push this. I really do. I should.
Well, just things like someone reached. Oh, I can con. Yeah, let me not. I have 3 calls.
But you know you need to get first place to have a shot at the final table, right?
I'm too high. I have a monk on show.
Yeah, but
I can con and then what?
yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the point situation was or whatever.
I was at like 25. Someone top was probably like 35. And top reaches. Or no, I think top was like 44.
And then top reaches.
Top or second place reaches. Second place is like 26, 27.
Okay.
And then second place reaches like third, like 25.
And you need to beat 45.
And beat 45.
And how
I
many
have a
rounds
monk
are
left.
left? And how many rounds are left?
4?
4?
3 or 4? Maybe 5.
Okay, if
Probably
you
4.
like con aside, if you don't win that round, you're not winning the game, most likely.
But I'm 10 high.
Right? Why wouldn't you? No, so what I'm saying is like
Oh, it
it doesn't matter because yeah, like
just go for it. Cause
yeah, there's
draw
literally zero risk because if you deal in with a manga, if you deal into like 2,000, you lose.
Probably.
Right?
Because it was the last table of the format.
Yeah, so if you have a chance for a high one, like you need to win that hand anyways. Like how often does a manga happen in non-knockout rules? Cheap.
Why am I using pinky numbers? So confused. What am I even pushing for? I'm so confused.
Oh no. Well.
Cheap.
What are you doing?
Going for a hand.
Which hand are you going for?
I'll tell you what happens. I think I disguised it really well, but
Yeah, I think you did. Disguise it.
I don't want any part of anything that's happening.
the disguising it was not intentional.
So
This is proof you haven't played enough time, huh?
Yup. definitely not really enough time for that I understand what's going on over there.
Just has all the time.
Okay. This note.
Okay. Well, let's replay. Maybe.
Is that gonna be a slogan every time we're playing not in a tournament?
Yeah.
Well, it's replay. Oh, shit.
No, I'm gonna use that slogan in tournaments.
Oh, okay. I mean, if there's no gambling involved, it's always free play.
Yeah.
Wrong.
No. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Here. Because this was
Yeah.
So I didn't, I had
right. Yeah,
this.
you had 5 mon tempo, then you drew the 2 mon. Now it's
Is my weight
Because-
5 Amon? I was doing this.
Very sad.
yeah, I don't think because this has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Very
Alright,
sad.
cool.
Oh, that's where.
You too?
No,
do I-
it's not tricky.
So, do I owe you
Yeah.
anything?
You disguised it really well.
Yeah.
That
That was not intentional.
I'm getting the 3.
4, 8, 10.
Or 2000.
Rugby chan.
I don't know if I'm gonna make it to this game.
Oh, are you
I-
ripping?
Yeah. Is it mine?
Yeah.
What?
Alright, what's gonna happen is you're gonna drive me home and I'll just do a week. It's at least I'll see the plaza.
That sounds good. Look at how slow I'm assembling my
Water might help. Get water.
Yeah, water will probably keep going.
Oh yeah, water. I did try to retire recently,
Yeah.
and so I think that I'm gonna do this one. Wait, I like
Well,
that.
they're both playing.
Oh, no, it's not. No, not there.
No, mine.
Oh.
This one.
Oh, right.
But it would've
I guess
been
I would rather.
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I would have paid him. That's cool.
Mhm.
Zip, zip, zip.
Yeah, in StarCraft, there's like so many points in the game where it's like, if I don't do this risky push, then I'm just going to like lose anyways, right? Like, I feel like that happens all the time. So why is it not the same in like Mahjong for you? I feel like generally, if you know how to win like one game, like it's the same principles of like figure out your win conditions and then play through them and block other people from like their win conditions, right?
To end every turn in the winning position.
Right. So if you're in a situation where if you don't count the tile and you deal in, you'll still lose, most likely.
Not necessarily. What can happen is the person who reached can like direct hit the person in the first place.
Then you want a con to increase the chance of that happening. Or, sorry, increase the chance that it's worth more. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I would have.
Yeah. So you need to play to get lucky. You don't just get lucky if you don't play for it.
There's like
But, like,
4 more hands left.
Right, but if you don't do anything this hand,
I
okay,
can die.
right, it's like high risk, high reward, except
Yeah.
it's not really high risk, it's just like moderate risk, high reward in that situation.
Sure. And then
Like, sure, your variance goes up, but you're an EV negative of making it into the finals in the first place.
I'm saying even negative.
You're negative. You're in third place, and you scored third first.
I was like plus 30. I needed plus like 60 or whatever. I guess it is technically negative.
Yeah, because you're currently in third. With the ring shot, it would have been higher, right?
No.
Okay. Increases your draws by 1, increases your win rate, increases the value of your hand potentially, and if you're dealing that, you're probably not lose anyways. It is really hard to know when to like pull the trigger and when you have to play it safe, but
I should just reach it.
Nine? One more?
Oh wait. Literally played the last one. Completely forgot.
Best tile in the game.
Nice.
Technically.
Cool story, bro.
I feel like I know what Beechan's waiting on, and then I'm gonna deal into it.
No, don't do it.
Should I spoil it for everyone?
You're gonna give up your third.
Jeez, they're still throwing axes. Really?
Oh,
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. Sad day.
It's last round. Don't do it.
I literally. What? Oh, Nels is dead. That's mean.
It's only among them.
What's mean?
Oh, I was like literally showing you. I was like, this is your way, right?
That's mean.
I mean, I knew it was your way.
8,000.
Well, it is where I thought that I would. I had this shape, and I thought that I'm going to either get rid of this
Or that.
or that, and I'm gonna. No, so when I said,
Yeah.
I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But it.
There's still one more round.
It put me in the tempi, so I did it.
Here she goes.
Yeah.
It's free play.
Do you think I shouldn't have reached there actually? They don't want that.
It's in manga if you hit the 7th one, right? Oh, it's a 10 one. You can probably down one round.
Because I can also draw a 5 so it's a 10.
Yeah.
So that means I need to take a
I mean, you don't need. You can.
Alright, what am I using for? Can I get a honeymoon?
I didn't know.
Wow.
Wow.
Just give up.
That was good. No, good luck.
I don't think I can get a honeymoon on my call, so
Fair enough.
even if it's the door.
Even if it's 3 of them. Like Honitsu, Yakuhai, Dora. Okay.
If I had 2 of them, I might consider playing them. Because it's not hard to throw.
This is hard.
You need
I guess.
something
No, I need a 5 months more. Yeah, high months and
I'll get another one.
Oh, come on.
Oh, well,
I need those. I need those.
I don't.
Oh, how do we have the outdoor?
Good question.
Oh, you got confident, or
Alright, they're coming. Let's do it.
That's the plan. Epots and Ura 3 is 4. If I get Ura 4, then it's
It's 5?
plus onto the Richi.
Reach epoch.
Reach Epotsumo, Ura 3. It's a Haimon, so I need Ura 5. So I need Reach Sumo and like plus 6. For the Daimon.
Do you not have any other Yaku? I did, you build a hand with Yaku.
Yaku's hard math.
I mean, it is.
That's
but
not
like,
good for
you
you.
can buy one.
I can get Rinshan as well.
Kidding? You can't get Epoch and Rinshan.
Oh no. I can get Rinshan high too.
What?
just like you got it.
Just like your favorite animes. Or I could just hit him for a
Wait,
high.
I guess, wait, can you get Rinshan?
Yeah. really? I don't know. How to make up these rules?
Let me get to tempo.
You don't need to be tempo.
Ooh, yeah, if you're tempo, then the game goes on, and I don't go home.
Oh yeah, I keep on forgetting that we play by those rules.
Yeah,
If you
I
win,
know.
it continues.
So win, so yeah, well, no, don't win, definitely don't win.
Definitely don't.
Even if you're tempo at the end, just don't. Only if you see that you're like Ozzy reach maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like
I guess that's technically doable.
Josie boxes do it.
Good.
Bam.
Would have been really interesting if that was a title.
That would be really cool. Maybe.
Ooh, really?
Oh, beauty box. Reach sumo. You've seen con a few times. Where are the cons, guys?
Nels broke one of my sumo ones. I don't know. Eat sumo, Dora Dora. Not even worth it.
Yeah.
I needed epots. It was 3 epots sumo, Dora Dora, Euro 3. I had 2 Euro
Euro
3.
three.
I had 2 cons.
Oh,
Yeah.
not a.
But I can't like. I could have stayed Dama and then drawn this and then like played this or something, put myself back into fairy time and waited for like an East card. Was that? Did anyone have East in their hand? Probably.
What?
No.
Did you have East in your hand?
No.
Huh.
What? East.
Oh, you're screwed. Yeah, that's good. I needed epots and then 3 euro. That was my only out. Oh well.
Oh well.
GG's.
Good game.
Fun game. Yeah, I got 2 seconds. Good in my books.
One last one first. Does that balance out?
Your
Nice.
first was bigger than your last? Maybe?
This is like 45,000, right?
Mr. Tenho player says it's okay.
Well, let's look at your game and see who did well. I don't think it's really close though.
Wait, what are you doing?
Calculating. So you got 2 is plus 30, plus 100, and then 1, 2, 6. Oh, you do really well. 3, 6.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a low number of games.
Right, it's 2
Probably.
games. It doesn't mean much.
And minus 11.
And they weren't like serious games either. These are fun games.
I'm only funded. So you're at probably. Your first one was minus 50.
I mean, they even out.
5?
Yeah.
So you don't need to do the look counts, right?
5 plus 19.
19.
Oh,
So just barely plus
no.
And then your balance.
and then reply. 2, 6, 1 is third, really?
Yeah.
And 11.
That was a close game.
That's up in good. 206 minus 5. 5 for 10. Wait, that's not right. Someone has a red stick.
I don't know what.
2 red.
I have 1 black, red, black,
Yeah.
2 black.
We're good.
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good now.
So I'll pay for 2 hours.
And
Answer the chunky.
Yeah.
Oh, is that how it works?
Probably not. Who was the one that got one? Oh, I got one.
Wait, I had a jacket. There it is.
Oh, we were. Oh wait, sorry. That's why.
Yeah, and someone was actually finding.
Oh, was there something? Was
Yeah.
there someone chatting?
Who was chatting?
See ya, whoever's watching. Good
Bye.
night.